Hi, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to teach you the basics on OBS, where to download it, how to install it, how to do basic settings and setup, a plugin installer that will help you keep control of all of your plugins. It'll tell you if they need updated, the forum that you can get plugins and help from, as well as to set up lives should you want to live stream, and then the basic recording settings. Let's begin. So the first thing you want to do is head over to OBS Studio or OBS Project. It's open broadcaster software at obsproject.com. And then once you're there, you either want to click on your Windows installer, your Mac OS, or your Linux. And then you just go ahead and download it for whatever OS that you have. For me, I have Windows. Go ahead and download it. And then from here, you can either go to the OBS Studio Quick Start Guide. It'll teach the basics of how to install it. You can go to the overview. There is a forums and a community Discord. Download's done. You can go ahead and click on it. And then all you do is double click the installer, install it to whatever drive you want to. Just make sure the folder that it's installing to is OBS Studio. Up next is Stream Up. To keep all of your plugins in one area, it will install them all for you and let you know when it's time to update them. It's super easy to use, but there are a few plugins that I have, for my preference, manually downloaded, which we'll get into in a few minutes, to download additional plugins. All you simply do is download this by putting 0 in here, click the Get Now. It will then give you the download, and then that's pretty much it. He has a couple other free things on his website if you want to check those out. Just install it to the OBS Studio folder, and you're good to go. And then up next is the OBS Project forum, and it's just the obsproject.com/forum, and that will bring you to a website here. They have Windows support, they have Mac support, they have Linux support, they have guides, they have themes, they have tools, they have scripts if you want to get all into that, and then they also have a forum just for plugins. Some pretty awesome plugins. They have face trackers, special overlays, transitions, things to automatically shut it down, shaders, browser transitions, things just specifically for streamers, and on and on and on. Alright, and then you're just going to open OBS to make it easier on your eyes. I am going to drag the divider up here so that the screen is smaller. Over here is the Scenes tab, which for me, whether I'm doing a stream on something specific, I'm doing something on tech gaming, if I'm doing teaching tutorials, I make each individual thing, as well as when I do my tickers, I make a special thing for that. And then whenever I have outside guests on my panel, I also make another scene just for that. Then up next is your sources panel, which I can teach you the basics on that once we get the OBS set up. This here will be the meters for your audio levels. I can also run you through that. And then over here, once we get through the settings, you will have a start streaming button, a manage broadcast, which I always start my streams with manage broadcast. I'll explain that to you. And then you have a start recording, stop recording, and then there's also a pause button here. You can also install a virtual camera. You can run it in studio mode. Here's your settings button, and here's your exit button. OBS comes default with this color scheme. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I only changed it back to default to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. And then from there, you just either click the settings down there, or you can go to File menu, Settings. Me personally, I always go to the theme, and I always choose a dark theme. Anytime you do anything to your screen, you're always going to want to hit Apply before you hit OK so that the changes take place. Or if you plan on staying in this screen, but for tutorial purposes, I'm going to leave it on Yammy so that the font is a little bit bigger for people to see. The update channel, I just automatically always have it checked for updates, keep it on stable. I don't mark anything for my output settings. Source alignment, don't mess with that if you're not sure how to use OBS yet. And then I always enable it to be in my system tray, that way I can pull it up, but I do not have it running when Windows starts. That's annoying as hell. And then here is where you're going to do your stream settings. You're just going to go to the service, whether you're using Twitch, Facebook, whatever. My preference is YouTube. You're just going to click YouTube, And then you can just connect your account this way. If you want to manually do it, you can go to custom, and then this is where you're going to need these settings. You're going to go and start a live. I suggest starting it private just so you can get this information. And then once you're in your live panel, you're going to see your stream key here. You're going to want this. You're going to want your stream key password. You're going to want your stream URL. These are the first three things are all you're going to need. Otherwise, like I said, just click on YouTube, connect your account, log in, boom, you're good to go. And then you just hit apply. Once you hit apply, what's going to pop up on the screen is a doc for your live chat. I'm not live right now. I'm doing this as a pre-recorded. I'll just go ahead and show you manage broadcast. So when you go into manage broadcast, you can create a new broadcast or you can select your existing one, which this is the one I'm using right now. I always make a live that is always set to private. That way, whenever I need to test something out, it is always there. I can just go in, click on the live itself, and then boom, I'm right here in a private live, and I just leave it there. It's way easier to do it that way. And then in here, you can create a new broadcast. That's the first tab. I always click remember these settings because I like it to keep my description, disclaimer, all of my information the same in my YouTube as everywhere else. And then this here is where you can title it whatever. Your privacy, public, unlisted, private. I always choose my category as entertainment. For me, my channel is not suitable for children, so I always select no, it's not made for kids. You can choose to upload a thumbnail, and then latency for anybody that is doing like gaming style stuff, you're gonna want to select low or ultra low. I recommend low if you're gaming. Low is for graphics over the chat. I almost always run my lives in normal mode so that my chat is in real time. Otherwise, if you pick anything other than that, latency is going to make your chat lag behind and go for the graphics quality over. And then I always enable DVR, and then you just create your broadcast and start streaming, or you can create the broadcast and then hit start streaming here. That is all dependent of you. And then we're going to move on to the next setting. We're going to go to output. For my output, if you have slower internet, I highly recommend to run your video bit rate between 5 and 8,000 kilobytes per second. You can run it up to like 50,000 kilobytes per second. For your streaming, you always want your audio bit rate to 160 and lower. I don't recommend, OBS doesn't even recommend. As soon as you select the 192, which is quality, it will say warning, streaming audio bit rates will be set to 160, which is the upper limit for the current streaming service. So I just leave it on 160. Encoder preset, just leave it on balanced. For me, when I do my recording, I make its own folder so that I know exactly where my recordings are being saved at. For your recording quality, you want it to be high quality, medium file size. My personal preference is Matroska Video, MKV. MP4s, if you're in the middle of recording and your OBS crashes, you will lose your recording if it's not in an MKV. So if you pick MP4 and your OBS crashes in mid-recording, you've lost it. So I highly recommend just choosing an MKV style format to record in. And then your video encoder is going to depend on whether you're AMD, NVIDIA. I have both. I have two different graphics cards. My hardware always runs on AMD H264. It's just the best quality for me. You want your audio encoder to always be AAC. Sample rate, keep it at 48 kilohertz. Stereo channels unless you want it mono. I always disable my second desktop audio because the way that I stream gaming, but always just make sure your desktop audio is set to default, and then go for your first mic auxiliary audio setting and make sure you're selecting your microphone. As far as the meters go, you'll see right here is my audio meter as I'm talking. I always do my decay rate fast. That way, when you're editing filters for your audio, it will drop it off quick and pick up depending on what type of gate you have. I will teach you all of that. I always run it on a sample peak. because if you run True Peak, it just bogs your system down, and there's really no point to that. I just run a basic default monitoring device, and then you can, for hotkeys, you can enable your push to mute or push to talk, and then you're going to go down to your video panel. Base canvas as 1920 by 1080, output whatever. I just do them in 720 because I can always do the output at 1080. For my downscale filter, I always just leave it on bicubic, sharpening scaling 16 samples, common FPS 30. You can set up hotkeys to whatever you want. I don't recommend messing with your advanced panel. Hit apply. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe. If you would like to donate, information is in the description, bottom of the screen. Otherwise, thank you for being here. God bless.